Okay, so we are officially recording and starting the workshop for today. What we're going to talk about is really two things. First, we're going to spend a little bit of time on licenses. So we'll talk about the different licensing options. If you're in the room, we have a handout on licenses, and we also have one for search strategies, which we'll do in a little bit. If you're online, if you're in the course, under modules, if you scroll down to information about licenses, you'll have the information there, okay? So we're going to go through what all the licenses mean, and then we're going to spend most of today really focusing on searching. So Rachel, our librarian, will help us walk through good search strategies, where to go searching, some of the different databases that have been most helpful for us. And this will be a hands-on workshop, so if you're online, you're obviously already connected, so that's great. If you're in the room, if you want to connect to the internet and play along, that would be great. Okay, so let me get this screen to share. Oh, it is sharing. Okay. Okay, so I think we have everything we need. Those online, you can see the PowerPoint there that says Open Culture. Yes, perfect. Thank you, Alfred. All right. Okay. So what we talked about last time, and let me actually go back to that that slide. Oh, how do you do that? Oh, I see. Okay, all right. So what we talked about last time is that open access has a lot of different aspects to it, right? So open educational resources is one, but there are a lot of other aspects to open, and what they all really come down to is a particular type of license. So open is a license. And there's different places where you can get open licensing. The one that is, I think, the most common is called Creative Commons. And I just like to do a plug for their shirt. It's very nice. But Creative Commons started, and I'm going to mess up the history if I get too deep into it, so I'm not going to try, but I think they started something in the 1980s, I think. It was a while back, but fairly recent. We've been, if you go to some of the open access conferences, there are folks that work for them that give these fabulous talks. And actually Creative Commons, if you go to their site, creativecommons.org, has a lot of really wonderful information. And they're just overall a neat group of people. It's been a really amazing experience to see what these folks have done. Basically what it came down to is, way back when, if you kind of remember when we were growing up, there were exactly two options for how things were licensed. Either it was copyrighted, which means nobody could do anything unless they asked you specifically and probably paid you money. Or it was public domain, which means anyone could do anything they want and they don't even have to tell people that you made it. Well, the idea was people wanted something in between. Like, I'm willing for people to use my stuff, but like at least tell them that I made it. Like, I spent time making this. Can I get my name on it? Right? Or I want people to use my stuff, but I don't really want them to make money off of it. Or there's some things I want them to do and some things I don't want them to do. And so the idea was they came up with different kinds of licenses that would allow the creators to decide exactly what can be done with their work. Okay. And a reminder that there is a difference between open and free. And this is all sorts of fun in the room because I can't move things that are, let me see if I can move things out of the way. So folks in the room can barely see this because stuff is everywhere. All right, so you're just gonna have to make do. So there is a difference between open and free. Free means you can use it freely, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you can do other things with it. For example, anything on YouTube is free. I can link to it and I don't have to pay for it. But some of it may be copyrighted. And the same thing is true for pictures online, for any sort of resources online. The book that we found, right, it was free. We could take students to their link. The students could download it, but we weren't really allowed to download and then change it, right? They had this like thing, it was theirs, it was free, but you can't do anything else with it. So that's an example of free but not open. And I think one of the things that people tend to misunderstand is just because you can download it doesn't mean you're allowed to download it, right? So we're going to focus on what is open and how do you know that it's open and not just free. So last time we talked about the 5 permissions of open, right? You can keep the copies, you can change them, you can mix them together, you can share them with others, you can print them and save them and so on. This time we're going to delve a little bit deeper into what that actually means. So I think the best way to understand open is with this flow chart here. So you can see at the very, very top is public domain, and so again, that is anyone can do anything. Down at the very bottom is copyrighted, which is no one can do anything, and in between are all the Creative Commons licenses. So let's start at the top. CC BY means that you can do anything you want with it, but you have to state where you got it from. And we'll talk about how you do proper attributions in a little bit, but you can see down at the very bottom, I have attributed this image correctly. Online, there we go, right? So a proper attribution has both what the image is called, so this is the name of the picture, who made it, and then what kind of license is it using. And notice these are all hyperlinks. So the first hyperlink will take folks to that image where I got it from. So I'm saying, look, this is where I got it from. This one will take them to the Creative Commons site that explains what this license means.
Will that only be already typed out for you, so you can just do like a copy and paste, or as far as citation is concerned?
It sometimes is, sometimes not. So yeah, sometimes you actually have to build it, and sometimes you don't really know what it's called. So right now this is a kind of do the best you can. It's not always super clean, but I'm going to show you some places where it is nice and clean and you can literally cut and paste, and that's super easy. So it depends. Okay. Oops. Stick here. All right, so the next one, CC BY share alike. Share alike means that whatever you create using this has to be shared back out with the same license. Okay, so I can take this and I put it in my PowerPoint, but if it's share alike, that means that my PowerPoint has to be CC BY essay, right? And the idea here is I want you to share back out. Like I'm sharing to you, you share next, right? The next one is NC, non-commercial. Non-commercial means you can do whatever you want, tell them where you got it from, but you can't make money. Okay. And then non-derivative is you have to keep it the way it is. So you can use it, but you can't. So notice here somebody added some text. This is not allowed if it's non-derivative. So if this was what I downloaded, that is the only thing that I can use. So that's non-derivative. And you can see here, you can kind of combine them in any format that you like. Any questions about the kind of basics of what these mean?
The red arrow on the right side says not OER. Can you talk about it?
Yeah, very good point. So you're noticing that right here, the non-derivative, once it's non-derivative, it's not OER anymore. And that's because to be open, you have to allow, yes, all of these 5 permissions. And if it's non-derivative, it means I can't revise or remix it, right? And so now it's no longer open. Now, if we're in our classes, right, so we're trying to build OER resources into our classes, you can use non-derivative. That's not going to take the class out of the open OER framework is just so that you know if you license something as non-derivative, you are not really giving it a truly open license. And this becomes important if you're creating content to really think about how am I licensing it and what does it mean? And I'm going to get political for just a second, and then we'll go back to this. And I should mention, for those that are online, I'm trying a new thing where I've hidden the pictures and hidden the chat. If you have questions and I'm not answering it, it's because I can't see it. So I think the chat should remind me, but it was getting in our way out here. So we're going to try this, and if you're not getting your questions answered online, please let me know. All right, so things to consider. Non-commercial is an interesting one because we as folks that are interested in open, we're doing this because we want to save students money. We're doing this because we want to build that sense of community. And we don't want this to fall into the hands of folks that are going to take it and make a bunch of money and take it right back into the commercial aspects. The drawback is non-commercial means that the bookstore can't print and sell a copy and make any profit at all. So they can print it and sell it for cost, but if you're looking at the bookstore has to stay soluble. Is that the right word? That's not right. Solvent. It's the same. It's the other solvent, right? The bookstore has to make enough money to keep its doors open. Non-commercial makes that really hard, right? And so there are some downsides to non-commercial. The other consideration is these licenses state that you have to put my information about where they can get this for free right on the front. And so if someone's going to take the book that I built where it says get it for free here and try to sell it for $100, I mean, I suppose if anyone's willing to buy that bridge, that's kind of on them, right? But there is considerations beyond just as simple as it sounds. So if you create content and you want to talk about which license is best, I'm happy to kind of walk you through what all the kind of downstream ramifications might be. Okay. If you're building content, knowing what all of these licenses mean is really important because the question becomes how well do they play together, right? So if I'm building a course that's CC BY, which is what our course is, and let's say I want to add content to the course, notice I can't add any content that is non-derivative. And that's because once I've added it to my course, I've now changed it. It's now part of a bigger thing. And so notice the person who made this non-derivative item maybe didn't intend for it not to be used. They just didn't want me to, you know, put little horns on their puppy picture that they took, right? And so you really want to think about what does it mean to have these licenses. Questions on that?
So what you're saying is you don't actually have to change the material, but if you put it into a container that is free and open, ipso facto have changed it.
Exactly right. So just by putting it into a larger container, I've now changed it. So what I can do, though, is I can link out to it because I haven't brought it in.
So when you say container, you're talking about the course itself, or you're talking about the course materials?
The course material. So it's this fine line. You're right. So if I take a picture that they took and I put it in my class, part of my, so I wrote this thing and here's their picture. Now I've changed that picture because it's part of a larger context. But if it's a textbook, and I just have a link, this is the book we're using for our class, and here's the book, I'm not touching a thing about it, now that's okay. That makes sense? So it gets it gets tricky. As with anything kind of legalese, it gets tricky. Okay. Other questions? Let me check the chat real quick. Or not. There it is. Okay. All right. Next. So now we're going to practice. And Rachel's going to walk you through searching for textbooks and bigger resources. And so I want to practice the license piece with something easier. So we're going to look for pictures. And these are some of my favorite sites for finding pictures. This is like show and tell. These are my favorite picture sites. Wikimedia Commons is a really great one. And I don't have hyperlinks, but if you Google the name, you'll get there. Google is also great. Flickr is, a lot of folks use that one. Flickr is pretty good. Pixabay is, I really like Pixabay. One of the nice things about that site is all of their images are CC0, which is public domain. So you don't even have to attribute them. I always do, just because it feels like better practice to me to attribute always. But you know, anything you find on Pixabay you can use however you want. Whereas with Flickr, some people, it runs the whole gamut. Some people have fully copyrighted works on there, so you can't use them at all. So Flickr is not one that is super great. YouTube government sites, for those that are in medical fields, have awesome pictures. If you really want some beautiful images of disease and horror, that's a great place to go. And then the Creative Commons site themselves built a really nice search engine where you can sort by licenses. For this activity, if I can have everyone go to Wikimedia Commons, so just Google Wikimedia Commons and do a search. Whatever you want. So I like the idea of making this useful. So if there's a picture that you think you might like to have for your class, whatever it might be, and what's really cool about Wikimedia Commons is it runs the gamut from you know, flowcharts explaining aerobic respiration to pictures of cute puppies and kittens. Like, so pretty much anything you want. Okay.
I'd like to make a plug for the one place that I researched, did review for, and it was Washington State. And they actually have a website that you can get on, and it has comments. You can actually have a pull-down menu, and it has you can select videos, images, lots of different things that you can just select right from that website.
Which one is it?
It's called Open Washington.
Yeah, so Randy's talking about Open Washington, which was one of the sites that we had for this week that has some really great training resources. Is this the one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the, you go back up to the top, I think it's the pull down second.
Find OER?
Find OER, yeah.
Oh, that's cool. So they have it sorted by, I can look for videos. I don't look for videos. What does that give me? So these are all places where I can look for open videos. That's very cool. The Open Washington site? Yeah, that is, they did a really, really nice job. So I'm laying down the gauntlet. California, come on. Excellent. So, okay, so you found a picture, and let's say you click on it, find one that you like and click on it. Oh, this one's in French. I don't want French. Like, I'm barely going to follow the English here. Oh, that is German, isn't it? Italian, Spanish. Here we go. There it is. Okay. So I picked this one because when I was researching the talk for last week, it was a really nice explanation of what open government is. So if you're curious, there's a nice picture there. But for right now, let's click on more details. And notice if you scroll down, it'll have the licensing. So this is licensed under Creative Commons attribution. So attribution is the by, that's the full word for it. 3.0 is just the latest version of that license. Okay, and what's nice here is they actually even explain it to you. So this is a really great site for just, if you want to understand what the licenses mean, play around with this site. It tells you also where the original source is from. So when you're citing it, you would cite the original source via Wikimedia Commons, just to fully attribute everybody that was involved in helping you find this. And you know, the rules with attribution, I think, are really a lot of kind of moral rules, right? Like, it seems only fair to give Wikimedia Commons some credit for helping me find this image. I could also just cite the original source if I really wanted to do that. Except it's in French. Yeah.
I was wondering if these images are already tagged with the information that you could just put it into PowerPoint or something that went on to an online class and you didn't have to do any requirements as far as the alpha.
It's a good question. No, they're not. I wish they were already tagged. So the question
Suzanne,
was,
can
are
you
these
repeat
images
the
already
question?
tagged with the attributions? And they're not. But here's what's really nice about Wikimedia Commons is if you go up to the use this file, really? That's usually where the attribution is. Hold on. Ah, there it is. And then so if you click on use this file for the web, it'll give you the attribution right here. So see where it says attribution, cut and paste that. So it's pretty easy. You can just cut and paste. I like to clean it up a little bit. So if I just cut and paste this, and let's say let me open a new document. Sure. Okay. So, and just to be clear, folks online, you can see my new document. If I'm clicking through tabs, that's not getting lost.
Yes, we can see your new document.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so if I cut and paste, I just get that, which is okay, but again, you know, it's how much work do I want to do versus like, let's make this easy for people. If I just do that and make it 8-point font, then technically I'm good, but really, you know. So what you can do though is, here's the link that this should take them to. So I've deleted that, right? Control X. Here's what I want to make a hyperlink. So Control K. Here's the hyperlink I want it to be. Apply. So, you know, just a little cleaning up. Same thing here. I don't know that I need this all spelled out. Now, this is actually an accessibility issue as well. So if you're online, those hyperlinks are what the screen readers are going to read. And, you know, if you could just kind of imagine having to http:// right? So it's much cleaner to cut that out, add it to what should be the hyperlink. So Control K, make the hyperlink, clean it up. And there you have it. Right, so it doesn't take too long to make that a pretty nice little attribution. Yep.
I pulled up 2 images, and both images have under licensing in Wiki Commons here. The letter C, the line through it.
Very good. So that is public domain. So no copyright at all. That's just public domain.
So there's no licensing that I need to worry about.
Exactly. For that one, so for things like that, you don't have to add any attribution. If it has I'm sorry if I don't know if folks heard it. It has a letter C with a line through it. That means that you don't have to attribute at all. Now, best practice, I like to at least include the hyperlink. So I'll just use that as my attribution. If nothing else, if I want to find that picture again, I can get back to it easy.
I always put at least that it's public domain because I'll go back and I'll wonder if I forgot to attribute it.
Nice.
And then I'll like have to try to go find it. So I always do it like just for myself mostly.
That's
but I can forget. You can forget to do it. So.
Yes. Yes, I have. Yes. So I don't know if folks online heard that, but that's a really great point. So Rachel was saying she at least puts public domain and then the hyperlink so that she can remember that it was actually public domain rather than, oh, I forgot to attribute this. Because that does happen if you have lots of pictures. You kind of move through and sometimes you just forget. Excellent. Other questions?
Are those notations being done at the end of the page or right under the image? How is that working? Like if you start pulling pieces from several places, could you get together your own if the license allows for that?
Yeah, great question. So the question is, do you want to put these attributions right next to the image or save them for the end? It's really a visual preference thing. What I've seen that I think works really well is kind of like a footnote. So after the image, there's a little 1. Down at the bottom, it says what the the attribution for one is, if you have a lot of pictures and the attributions are right underneath them, it gets cluttery. But if you save them all for the end and you don't know which one's which, that I think is not really within the spirit of attribution either. So if you don't use numbers, maybe a real clear attribution of, you know, the picture of the child in the swing, and here's the attribution. Picture of, you know, whatever, child in school, here's the attribution. But yeah, saving them for the end is cleaner. Sometimes I've seen books save them to the bottom of the page, or the bottom of the chapter, or the end of the chapter, or the end of the book. Again, you want to think about what works best and what is most reasonable. If somebody really wanted to know where did this come from, how hard is it going to be for them to find it? Yeah.
Well, I found a photo or an image that actually has licensing. Can you walk through it again?
Yeah, absolutely. So you found an image that has, so let me go over here. What's the license? And I'll type it up.
It's the number 4, Creative Commons Attribution Alike 4.0
International, good. Is there nothing beyond CC?
Creative Commons Attribution.
Oh, attribution, sorry, yep.
Share Alike 4.0 International.
Okay. So sometimes you have the attributions in pictures, which is nice because it's easy. Sometimes you have them in words. So attribution is, so the other way to write this is CC by SA, okay? The attribution means you have to state where you got it. The share alike means whatever you create with that image, you have to share back out as CC by SA.
What about it says CC on the top and it says some rights reserved?
Yeah, so it should say that, I think for all of them, some rights reserved. So the question was, what if it says some rights reserved? Where is it?
Over there too, under the CC.
Oh yeah, so all of them here, yep. So right there, some rights reserved. The idea is, oh boy. So my understanding of this, and this is getting into legal things, and so I may be wrong. So I may be wrong on this, and if anyone has clarifying information, please help out. But my understanding is you're still retaining the copyright, but you're releasing certain aspects of it. So you're not releasing all of your, it's still yours, it's still your copyrighted work, but people can use it as long as they attribute it. That's what the some rights reserved means. Okay. Cool. There's one other.
And one other
That was it. Yep.
question.
Uh-huh.
So we wrote the CC by SA. Then we're going to create a link that takes us to the Creative Commons license.
Yeah, very good. So the question is, so let's say this is my attribution here, CC by SA 4.0, so that we know which version. International. Okay. And I'm on a site that doesn't give me a direct link to it, so I know that this is the link to my picture. So open government, and I can make this a hyperlink, so Control K, make it a hyperlink. How do I find the hyperlink for CC by SA? And this is where, if you go to the Creative Commons website, okay, so creativecommons.org, they have a lot of really great information. And where are we? Here it is. Share your work. And you're going to choose a license. So this is actually set up for, let's say I've created something and I want to license it. That's what this is set up for. You're just using this to find the link to that kind of license. So the license I want is, get started. All right, so we want CC by SA. This will be a fun little test. Let's see what you remember. All right, so that's my license, CC by SA. Do I want to allow adaptations of my work to be shared? Yes, correct. Do I want to allow commercial, oh wait, let's go back to this one. Allow adaptations of my work to be shared? Yes. As long as others share alike. Very good. right? So here's the share alike part. Okay. Do I want to allow commercial uses of my work?
You said yes, if you wanna do the print shop.
Right. So if I'm choosing this, right, I'm going to say yes if I want to make it easier for the bookstores to sell paper copies to my students, right? Which we learned last time is really helpful. A lot of students want that. But just looking at their license, so they have CC by SA. Can I use that work commercially? That's the question. Ooh, 50-50. You say yes? Okay, so somebody that has an answer, give me a rationale. How do you know?
Because it doesn't have the $sign with the cross.
Exactly right. It doesn't have the $ with the cross. So it doesn't have the NC, the non-commercial. Therefore, yes, I can use it commercially. You follow? So yes, allow commercial work. Oh, and look here, CC by SA. Surprise. Put a scroll down. And what's really nice about the Creative Commons site is they will give you what to cut and paste. So they make it super easy. So cut and paste this as is. And then you have it. It comes with the picture and everything. Yeah, they have made it really easy for folks. And by the way, notice here, it'll come with an image. So text is fine, but these images are a nice quick way to see what the license is. Okay, so that is what I have. Questions before we jump into not sharing, searching?
Suzanne, there's a question on the chat.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it didn't flash for me. Are these choices personal or are there best practices? Oi, that's a good question. So are these choices personal or are there best practices? They are definitely personal, and there are definitely best practices. The actual best practices tend to vary based on who you talk to. Most folks in the open community, and Una, I'm super glad you're here, so stop me if I overstate. But most folks in the open community tend to favor the just CC by. And again, that is because that is the most open and most sharing. So it doesn't limit our bookstore's ability to get print copies to student who wants that. The CC by SA seems nice, but it gets really complicated if I want to create a work that I just want to make it as easy as possible for anyone to use, so I make it CC by, I can't use something that's CC by SA. So that beautiful thing you created, I can't use it, sorry, because I want to make mine even more open than that. And then the non-derivative really ties people's hands, so that's, unless there's a good reason for that, that's less favored. So best practice for most in the open community is the CC by. So Una, who is, for those of you that don't know, Una has been working in the open community for a very long time and is in charge of the Community College Consortium for Open Education, Open Educational Resources. It's way too many letters. But she has a lot, there we go. Oh, thank you. So this is a really great link for additional information on open. They've put together a lot of really great resources. So CCC OER. Thank you. And so yeah, Una was confirming that is best practice for most folks in the open community. Excellent. Other questions? Okay, so I am going to step aside and Rachel's going to help us search. Okay. Hot. Is it hot? I always, okay, let's see. Oh. Oh, no, it's probably there. Where the? Oh, there.
Okay, so I am Rachel Arciaga again. I'm a librarian here, and I'm going to show you how to find open educational resources. So we're going to look at both sites that we recommend that you search and also some tips for searching. For the librarians that are joining us, this may be kind of review for you. You'll know about it already. So if you want to add anything that could make it better, that would be good too. So what I'm going to do is show you a resource, and then we're going to take a few minutes just to search, to practice and to see if you can find anything, and then move to the next one. Okay, so there's a lot of different resources out there and a lot of different places where you can look. Which is why we've kind of narrowed it down to the ones that we like, but there are many that you can choose from. So it can be a little bit overwhelming at first if you don't know where to start, but that's why I'm here. I can help you. If you're at Butte, I can do searches for you too. So the first site is Cool for Ed, which is a combination of CSU, UC, and CCC put it together. And there's just one thing that I wanted to show really quickly, which is the showcase reviews. It's not a place that has a lot of different resources, but they have really extensive reviews about resources. And they're all reviewed by faculty in California. And they have a lot of different accessibility information that's useful. So we can take a few minutes to search. Let me go back. So if you search for Cool for Ed, and then you want to find the course showcase is the link that you want to look for. And then you can search basically by discipline. So for example, we can just go to one of these. You can see the different people that have evaluated the resource, and then, like I said, the accessibility evaluation is really useful. So you can see it has extensive information about accessibility and the scores. So this is just a resource to look at really quickly before we go into the bigger resources that have a lot more things to search. So if there's a chat, will it pop or should I be checking?
I think open it.
Is it open?
And then if you scooch it way up, I think if you close it, it stops. Minimize. Okay, we'll see.
Okay.
I'm crossing my fingers.
Okay.
You find it? You find it?
I'm not finding the review.
The reviews are off to the right. So people's names,
I see.
and then the accessibility reviews underneath their names.
Okay, so I'll just give you a few minutes to look at this site, and then we'll move on to the next one. And you'll have access to the slideshow too through the course, so you can go back and all of the stuff should be hyperlinked so that you can go to it directly.
They have some textbooks that you reviewed, right?
Yeah, so it's not a super extensive list. It's just,
So the question came up about finding, can you search on this? And there's not very much on here. However, I think, I've kind of heard through the grapevine that they're going to be building this out. So hopefully this will become a little bit more useful, but it only had a very few things. So.
yeah, and it's just mostly the accessibility thing, I think, was what we wanted to show people.
What's the difference between the 3.0 and the 1.0? It just means that 4.0 is more recent?
On the licenses?
On the license?
Yeah, 4.0 is more recent.
So we want to stick to 4.0?
Yeah, so if you license something, do the most recent one. If you're using somebody else's, like if you're attributing somebody else, use whatever they have.
I noticed under the Coup for Ed, they actually have open online courses as well. But it said, one of the things that it says at the very top is that this may contain links that are not accurate, not up to date. Are we allowed to, if we were to maybe perhaps use some of that, are we allowed to update those links? Is that something that is allowed?
So it depends on the license of the thing.
Okay.
Right, so that one, I think you're looking at Sailor Academy,
Yeah.
and I think they're just CC BY, so you should be able to upload those.
Okay.
But if you scroll to the very bottom, it'll give you the license.
Okay. Unported 3.0.
You can't change those, it's just CC BY.
Oh, I see. There's the little icon.
Oh, yeah, yes, I cut and paste.
Okay, so I think I'm going to move on to searching OER repositories or collections. So these are the much larger collections that will have a lot more material. And just a few tips when you're searching them. You can search a lot of them by keyword. So if you're looking for a specific type of course, like Introduction to Biology or Psychology, you can search specifically, but it's also sometimes good to browse by discipline or subject, because a lot of these are built by people putting information into them, and they might not necessarily be accurate as far as what they've been tagged as, which we'll see some examples of that when I search, I think, the next one. So if there's limiters, if there's a way to search broadly and then narrow it down, that's good. Just know that because a lot of them are put in by the users, they might not have the best search capability. So it's good to browse, and you might even consider browsing broadly by discipline, depending on what your subject is.
So by that you mean I should do nutrition. That's the broad description I should go for. And then
so the question was, what do I mean by broadly? So if you want to search, you can search by nutrition. You might even want to search more broadly than that, and look under a discipline like health or biology. If you're not finding something more specific, then look wider. But yeah, as opposed to like child nutrition, you can search nutrition. So also use limiters, which are ways to make your resources more specific and more relevant to what you're searching for, which a lot of the repositories have, which we'll see. So you can search by discipline or subject. The education level is really useful because some of them are made for, say, elementary school students, and you don't want to be sorting through all those results. A lot of people only want textbooks specifically, so you can narrow it to that in some, depending on the repository. And then also license type or condition of use is another thing that you want to make sure you check when you're looking at the resources. Okay, so one of the bigger repositories is OER Commons. This is one of the sites that has a lot of different limiters where you can really narrow down your results. Like I said, I suggest searching by discipline. You can try a keyword search, but looking more broadly, I find a lot of stuff kind of looking at the next broadest level. Because when you put something into the site, the users put stuff into it and then they tag the resource for what they think it should be, which is not necessarily accurate. So just keep that in mind. The other thing to know about OER Commons is they do have creation tools and a lot of other things that you can use the website for. So let's go to, and you can just search oercommons.org. So you can do an advanced search. Sometimes the search bar just pops up. Maybe they've changed it. So you can do a keyword search, just biology. What I like to do is search broadly and then narrow it down once you get to the results page.
Sounds cool.
So for example, I just searched something really broadly and there's over 2,000 results. So what you want to do is break it down by limiters. So you can search by community college. I usually add college too. Then limiting by material type is also really good because there are a lot of different types of resources that people put in here. And you don't necessarily, maybe you want to look at syllabi, but they're not really useful if you're trying to find like an OER textbook. You don't want to have to look through all of those. So you can limit it. And then what you'll see are the results and hopefully, so now there's only, I don't know how many results, a lot fewer results, and you can go to the actual record for the resource and find out more information about it. So this is the OpenStax biology book. And then if you go to the view resource, it'll take you to that page.
There's a little box underneath that says comments.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody can leave a comment.
Yeah, I'm not sure. The question was, can anyone leave a comment? I don't know if you have to create an account to leave a comment. I know that for OER Commons, you have to make an account if you want to use some of their other resources. If you want to put a resource into their list, you have to make an account. Okay, so I'll just give you a few minutes to search this resource to see if you can find anything.
I think you have to log in, or do you have to make an account to leave the comments?
Probably, yeah.
Just in case there's.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that comes up.
Is it not working? Okay.
So your slides are on the course, right?
Yeah, all the slides we put at the bottom of the page.
And we can download and save it here. Let me see.
No, actually. I put the link to the slides. No, that's just a video. Oh. Scroll all the way to the bottom, it'll actually say slides. Finding menu.
Oh, we can see the hyperlink. This is the open, right?
Yeah, so you can't edit it.
Yeah.
It's view only, but you might if you go to file and like download as right. You can type for you to download. Yeah, you just can't edit it. Yeah.
Okay. Let me just save it online on my drive. Okay, that's fine. I'll figure it out.
I mean, I've looked at it a lot. I haven't used it to.
I mean, so I found stuff, and these ones, I can't figure out what it is. I want to use this for that.
So I know that I think we have a lot of stuff that is not updated anymore. It's just like sitting there. So, like, everything, not doing anything to it.
But we're not even finding this stuff. I mean, we're finding like little articles. Do they have
So like
like
when I use the OER comments, I was looking specifically at the history of it. Quick, view the resources. This here. this is where I get.
Maybe they can get two.
This is an addition to that. There's nothing here.
No, this is the first one. They were those phones. So this is. Public domain. Yeah. So you can do, yeah, so public anything. It's, yeah, it's just, and it just. Looking at one of those. We're not.
Okay, so, cool, but.
Yeah. It's just you have to go through and see if there's any. Sorry. Yeah. I usually just then do a search for that. It's not that I write about that. I go to whatever this is. I can find it.
So I'm going to share this with folks online and with everybody, if that's okay. So what the question that came up is in the OER Commons, sometimes when you find a resource, you're still in their framework and you can't click on anything, you can't get to the resource, which is a really strange thing that they do, and I hope they fix it. But what seems to work best is if then you search for the title of that book in Google and go to the book directly so that you can get out of the OER Commons framework. That's how we tend to get around that. So there is a question here, and I'll let you handle that. Okay.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, to narrow down by material type, to exclude all, the question is, there's a lot of audio and video stuff. So if you narrow it down to exclude these, it'll be much more relevant to what you're searching for, unless you want that. Because this repository has so much in it that you're finding a lot of stuff that you might not actually want to spend time looking through. Okay, so I think I'll move on to the next resource. Oops, how do I do that? Okay, so the next resource is the Open Textbook Library, and it's through the University of Minnesota. And this is actually one of my favorite resources because it's really clean. It has really high quality textbooks and materials. I think it's only textbooks and similar book things like lab manuals and other stuff like that. They add new books frequently, and there's reviews available. They have a pretty high standard as far as what goes into their collection. I think a certain amount of universities have to be using it. It has to be reviewed. There's different criteria that makes it a higher quality collection. And they've just changed their webpage too. So if you search for Open Textbook Library, you should be able to find it. You can, again, search by keyword if you want to. But I usually like to browse by subject because there's not so many resources in this collection that it's hard to browse by subject. So for example, let's go down. to humanities and look at literature and rhetoric. The other thing that I like about these resources is they tend to be in really nice formats. So a lot of them are in Pressbooks, which is a really easy to use and useful format as far as displaying an ebook. So then if you go to one of the resources, you'll find more information. And what's also really nice is they give you all the different formats that you could possibly use, as well as reviews by other instructors.
Rachel, it doesn't look like on that resource that you can narrow it as easily as the other one, right?
Right, so it doesn't have quite as many resources, which is why I suggest just browsing by discipline or subject. You can do a keyword search. When I do keyword searches, sometimes stuff comes up. It just depends because it's not a huge collection. It kind of just depends on what you're searching for.
So to search for lab manual, just type in lab manual or biology?
So you can't really search by material type because there's really only, they're all book in book format basically. So textbooks, lab manual. You can try searching lab manual.
Yeah, I have a couple of options that came up, but not in biology.
Yeah, so it's more limited as far as what it includes, the Open Textbook Library, but it tends to be higher quality and easier to just browse by discipline. So each of these repositories has pluses and minuses. You may like one over another. I just like this one because it's clean and easy to look at, and I know that the materials are going to be pretty high quality.
The one thing I have noticed about this one is you have to browse by subjects that are kind of related to what you might be interested in, because they tend to be in interesting places.
Yes, so Suzanne, this is a good point. Suzanne made a point that you should browse by related disciplines in this repository because, say, for example, you're searching for a psychology book, you might find it in social sciences, you might find it in, I don't know what the other subjects are.
I think I found it in science.
Yeah, science.
And also in humanity. It was all over the place.
Yeah, so I search any subject that's even remotely related for this, for the site.
And also I'm seeing that I'm clicking browse by subjects and it's not showing me the whole drop down menu.
Not all of them have a drop down.
Oh, it does, but it does not show me the whole thing.
Oh, okay. I'll come look. Okay, so I'll give you a few minutes to search this site. Let me check the chat really fast. Why doesn't it show? There it is. Okay.
Here it says browse by subjects, but it does not. I can't see the whole.
Yeah, you have
Maybe
to.
it's just
You have to
not
scroll
settings.
down on each backside. It's already.
Maybe I can still. Maybe I have to make this one this small.
That's usually how I do it. Also, like, this whole setup is brand new.
Oh.
Like they've just changed it.
Oh.
So they might not have figured out all of the kinks yet.
It looks like it's a good site.
I think
Yeah, it should be silent. Maybe they have to stay.
On my computer, I can see it. So it might be your laptop. The screen setting for your laptop.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would just search
Just
search Backlogy. Yeah. It doesn't have that many resources.
especially the people with easy quality. I was thinking I could find some. I'll recommend you that I could use.
The best search that I like to do is actually Google search. Google search or something today. Because other stuff is all over the site. If you're searching for something more specific like that, that's a better search to do.
Because the bad manual that they use, it was written in 2009. Somebody, and I don't see the quality, nobody, I just didn't have. It's not been modified.
But it's good. Yeah. So, yeah, I would search this on just a different, like a desktop.
Yeah. And you said it didn't change it to.
Yeah, but I've run into that problem before where you can't see the whole.
Try it on.
Yeah, it did.
It did?
Yeah,
Oh,
it did.
okay.
So not all that means is that you have to, when you make your thing, you just have to say where to talk to session. Yeah, basically you have to ask that. So you can use it. You can stuff to whatever you want to it. You just have to say where you got it from, and then if you change it, say adapt it. Yeah, adapt it from
Yeah.
if you go to actual website, if you look for application files. You just have to, so that's where the information is sending the license. So you have to say like adaptive, blah, 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 UC license. You have to link to resource and license. So like, if I use, yeah, if we new license it, it'll be the new license. So after you read everything, choose, and you'll go into the comments and decide the license type. So some of them, yeah, so some of them where they're share alike. You have to share that material with the same license. And so that's where it is. So that's like
Oh,
C5.
yeah. That's pretty much, I found them. There's actually, we now have.
As much as I'm citing in the chat there.
Yeah,
This is a free one. It's I know it's more than the meaning of it.
Yeah, well, you get there from here. This is the first place I went to. It's down here. That's where it is. So they have local textbook, and you get the links to the other textbooks.
This one is more.
Let's see.
This is not this one.
Yeah, these are realizing that see, that's where it's one of those where there's nothing. I remember last year there was nothing and somebody got a grant.
Yeah, that's what I've been looking, now and then, and I just looked this past because I found one for like a class. I thought I'm gonna just try to retire early on. And so I did a search just before I was to submit my books. Oh, more than submitted this time. Well, there's a few things.
When you did that, check the ZTC designation on the bookstore form,
Oh, for the
so you could.
okay, I yeah.
I kind of just looked it up. But there was some support. It's weird. I just noticed it.
What does that mean? So go back to the.
This one? Right here. And this is
Okay. Let's move on to the next resource. Okay, so this is another one, Open Oregon, which is not really searchable easily, but it does have some additional information that I find helpful. So it's a list of the additional information. It has information about the actual class that the resource is being used in, and a lot of times the instructor information so that you can actually contact them. So let me just show you what, we won't spend that much time on this one. So if you search Open Oregon educational resources.
No, sorry.
No, it's okay. So you can search by keyword or maybe just do a Control F. Sometimes the search function is not very good. But what I like is that it talks about the course more. So if you're teaching a similar course, and it gives links if there are any links, and then also the instructor contact information if you want to talk to them about how they use it in their course. I think is the point of having that there. So this is another one. We'll just spend a couple minutes looking at it. I just like it because it has that additional information. So what course, the course number and stuff like that.
I think if you control search or Control F, right, then you can search for it.
For a word, yeah. So I'll just give you just a couple of minutes for this one. We won't spend too much time.
I would like to note that Oregon and Washington have really nice sites. I'm just saying, California.
Yeah. So Oregon and Washington are a little bit ahead of the rest of other states. as far as open stuff.
I think the college is gonna be the leader.
We're trying.
Yeah.
Hey, you were mentioned at a national conference.
Although if I have to be fair, our legislature has put in lots of money, so they are working with us. Didn't mean to downgrade our legislature.
It seems to be more worried.
This one's from Yale, but the download package is zip file. Is that fine?
Big file. I mean, they do that.
It's hard to tell what's in it.
Oh, I see. And is it, what's the license?
So, Portland Community College was using it. This guy, history 103, it doesn't tell me what it is.
Right.
Open it,
I don't have my glasses on. Okay, so the question is about Sailor. So Sailor is it's basically a format that has open courses. And some of them are old courses that aren't really being used anymore, and then they have new courses that are CC licensed. I don't know if that answers the question. So they're like classes with text is more like what they are. So you can work through them. They're more modular based is how I would describe them. Yeah, so Sailor Foundation is the foundation that, so you might see legacy courses, which are the old courses that you can use stuff from, that we ran into here in class, and then they have a new catalog of stuff that's updated. So you can actually go to their site and search their materials too. Is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I don't really know much about them.
Okay.
I honestly, I keep finding nice things, but I can't figure out a whole package. Seems like there's something there, but I can't find it.
Yeah, so if you go to their current courses, you can search to see which ones are being updated. I don't think they have a ton. From what I remember, they have a lot of nice things that they link out to. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next way to do a search, and this is my favorite because it combines a lot of different resources in a Google Advanced Search, and you can basically search by license type, which is really useful. So if you're looking for something more specific, this is a good way to go. Okay, so Google Advanced Search, what you want to do is go to the Google Advanced Search. So if you just go to Google, you can either type in Advanced Search and it'll take you there, or you can look under Settings and then go to Advanced Search. And it will look like the screenshot. Okay, so let's go there. So let me know if you have difficulty finding Advanced Search. I usually just type it in. That's the beauty of Google. Okay, so for example, What was your search? You wanted a
Ecology lab.
ecology lab?
Labs, yeah. And more specifically, it would be like a bird lab.
Like a book, a lab book?
Lab book, yeah.
Yep. Okay, is that one word or two words?
They're usually called lab manuals.
Lab manual?
Words.
Okay.
Mhm.
So you can do a keyword search. And then this is the important part is you want to change the usage rights to, scroll down, free to use, share, or modify. And then go ahead and do your search. And you'll see what comes up. So sometimes, like if you do a search for a textbook, I usually add biology textbook to the search if you're searching for something specific. All of these, when you look at them, they should have a CC license, is what the license, the usage limits it to. So if you go to one of these resources, you just always want to double check what type of license it is to see if it's something that you want to use. But this usually brings back a lot more results than just searching an individual repository. And then because it's Google, you can do the search as specific or broad as you want. There are some other tips that I like to use for Google. So for example, if you want a certain type of website, like a .edu site, you can type in site :.edu, and then it'll limit it to only .edu resources. That can be kind of useful. You can also go back. If you say don't want Wikipedia stuff to come up, which sometimes Wikipedia pops up like the first 10 results or something, you can do not subtraction symbol wiki, which, let's try it like this. There's not going to be any for lab manual. So now you've eliminated that type of resource. So if you want to not include a certain type of resource, you can type -sign and then key. So those are just two tips that are kind of nice Google tips in general that might be useful when you're searching.
Is the not wiki like anything called a wiki, or the whole like suite of wiki?
It's just anything that has that wiki.
That word in it somewhere.
Yeah.
Huh.
Okay. So I'll give you a little bit more time to search Google Advanced Search. I like it. Did you find anything?
Yeah, that's the first one, the first search. So it has like these activities. Okay. But these are the two advanced, maybe I have to look somewhere else. How to do it.
Yeah, I search the repositories, but I always end up doing Google.
Yeah. I am Suzanne, we curated a book, so I kept going to only one side with the comments. And look, I got the pictures, most of the pictures I got from there.
Yeah, once you find a good site, I think that's been
Images too.
Yeah.
Which I was actually learned you can like limit it by size. You want to find like a large image and you can do the license type on the images too.
It's the same size.
If you go advanced search, yeah. And then if you click on the Google Images tab, you can go to tools that lets you like choose and like search by color, by image size, and so on Google Advanced Search on images. Yeah. Okay. No, later. Maybe wait a little bit. Okay.
Because that is a nice one.
I use it a lot.
Always on all too. It's like, oh, yeah, we're talking. Although we're out there, I'm kind of strong. Research. That's great. Like that specific to computer research.
And then citation to schools.
Okay.
So it's
These are awesome.
Okay, go back.
And if we type in like PDF at the end, that's gonna bring the PDF.
I'll find the PDF stuff. But you don't necessarily want PDFs.
No,
You don't necessarily want PDFs because if you want to edit stuff, they're not as heavy as other document types. You should limit, unless you just want to like print out what it is.
okay.
As is, because they have to be scanned a certain way to edit the PDF if you want to add stuff.
Okay.
So it's nice when you find stuff that's in a variety of formats, like PDF and then like editable. More editable formats too.
Your
actual notes.
That's cool though.
Wow, it's okay.
And teaching, like teaching this.
You can do it in no commercial.
But see, essay. It's like a
You have to share it. I like CC5 is the best
Yeah.
to use just because then you don't have to think about it.
So if you don't take the license, that's what it is, right? That's what they automatically get.
That's true. I wonder
No,
if they still
so when you go into the Creative Commons, it'll walk you through
Still even
like 3 or 4 questions that they ask you, and then they'll give you the license type based on how you answer.
that may be over.
Yeah, no, I when we create figures, I made some figures. And I put it in there. But I never put it in there.
But is the entire book
Oh, yeah.
license of CC BY, then that means whatever's in it is CC BY. So it'll usually say something like, all materials in this resource are CC BY unless otherwise indicated. It's usually how they say it there. In a bunch of websites and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really well.
Okay, just really fast, I want to show you how to do another thing in Google Advanced Search. Let's see, I can go back. So if you go to Advanced Search and you do the same search with the license type, so let's just look. And then if you go to the images in Google, so it's showing you the usage rights at the top, and then all of these other things are useful if you want to search for different types of images. So you can search by large images, especially, I use this all the time for teaching and presentations if I want to find a good image about something specific. Or if I'm making something to print, say you would want to use a large image that has high quality, a lot of pixels, you can choose large. You can even choose color. If you go down here, you can choose full color, black and white. What type of image it is, so clip art, photo. I don't know what time means. Oh, so that time would just be most recent or not. So just know that that's a really useful thing if you're searching for images. Like I said, for classes or to use, and then if you click on the image, like Google image, you can view the image or go to the site where it says visit. And this is where you'll find the licensing information. So whatever, so this is a Wikimedia Commons image, you'll find the licensing information. And then for different sites, there's a lot of Pixabay stuff, Flickr stuff on here too. But it limits by license, and I just use it all the time, basically. So that's another thing you can do with Google Advanced Search. Are there any more questions? Okay. So I am done now. Thank you.
All right, so we've got just a little bit more time. So first, are there any questions before I jump into the next thing? Kind of decompress moment before we move on to the next. Questions online? Okay. And I realize I'm used to speaking to a much larger group, so I apologize if I'm very loud. I'll try to keep it down to a reasonable volume. So last time, excellent, thanks. Last time the question came up of ancillaries a little bit, and we kind of just touched on it. And so what I want to do is show you some examples of what types of ancillaries are out there. So like I said, this is a total shifting gears. What you looked at now was, you know, what are the licenses? How do we find images? How do we find other kinds of resources? And there's a whole lot of ancillaries available. And so generally, if there's a little bit of extra time at the end of the workshop, I like to show folks what's out there so that we get a sense of what else can we do? Because I know a lot of times what I hear is, you know, the textbook is great, but I also have this this other thing that the publisher provides that I'd really like to use. I don't want to just have a textbook and have to recreate all of this other stuff. So let me show you, I'm going to take you to OpenStax, which is one of the places where a lot of really wonderful books are being written. However, not in every subject, so they're a little bit limited in the content that they have, but we can go to, let's see what humanities has. So U.S. history. And so if you, sorry, I'm moving ahead quickly, but openstax.org with an X. And what they have that's really nice at the bottom is other types of resources that are available. Now, at the top here are resources that are available specifically for the OpenStax books. So things like their PowerPoints, their test banks, and those are great if you're using that book. But what's also nice is they have just general other ancillaries that are available. So you can see down here, there's a bunch of other types of ancillaries. And for many of these, I think I went to one of their presentations and they said that these all are under, I think it was 45 was their limit, but these are all low cost, so below a certain price, and they do give some back to OpenStax so that they can continue creating more books. So these are our true partners in that sense. And so you can kind of click on these and learn more about them. I do want to show you just a few. One that came up last week was Lumen. And so, oh, you're not going to let me check in. Hold on. Nope. Okay. Let me get to my site there so you can see what this looks like. Okay. New share. I'm going to have to change tabs because I don't remember any of my logins, so they're only in the browsers that I used. Okay, so what this one does is it creates a course for you, essentially. So here's an example of a college success course. And, you know, folks, where I think it came up here, you know, what exactly does that look like? Is it just a book? And what it has is an actually mostly built out course. So the idea is you would add your specific flavor to this. There are, actually this is not the one. Let me go back to the other one. Maybe, try this one. Okay. So at the beginning of each unit, if we jump in to the units, you can see it has assignments, some things to sign because they're collecting data, and so on. And so the textbooks are actually broken down into the Canvas course for you. So that's one approach. And again, all of these ancillaries, not all of them, many of these ancillaries will actually cost money. So that is something to consider, is what, you know, what is the value added for students? So that's one. Another one that, let's go back here. Actually, we'll stay there. Okay. So another one that's pretty popular for our folks. Come on. No. Okay, there. In the biology department, a lot of our folks wanted to have quizzes that were responsive to how students answered the questions. So something that gave them quizzes that they could go home and do the assignment. And we found a site called Sapling Learning. And some of our folks are using that. And what this is, it's a place to, let's see, this is our playground. So you can see here, this starts looking a little bit more like the publisher ancillaries that we're used to, right? So you have a place where you can create quizzes, you can include discussions that the students have to do, you can add the textbook pages directly to there. What's nice about this one is they actually have a whole bunch of quizzes that you can use to build your own content. So here's an example. They're pretty visual. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do, so I'll just click on here. They're pretty visual things that you're asking the students to do, right? And these are really just two examples. So I'm not trying to say these are the best ones or the ones that you want to use. There's actually a whole bunch. So if we go back to the OpenStax page, nope, not that one. That one. You can see that there are many of them. I've had some really nice demos. So if you call the different companies and ask for a demo, they are generally very willing to spend half an hour walking you through their product. So the question is, Sapling just for science courses? That one is, yeah. Sapling is really mostly for science, but there are different ancillaries for different topics. So there's lots of different ancillaries out there. That just happens to be the one that I'm familiar with. The challenge with these, so just kind of a heads up about the challenge is, if you go, so Odigia is another one where they came and they gave us a demo and it was wonderful. But if you go to their website, sometimes it's really hard to figure out what they do. And this isn't the only one. All of these have been really difficult to figure out exactly what they do. So my recommendation is, if there's something you know you have to do, ask me or Rachel if you're at Butte, or even if you're not at Butte, you're welcome to email me and say, here's the type of thing I need my students to do. So Heather, maybe you need a annotation tool. And actually at the conference I went to just last week, there was, it's called Hypothesis.is. I'm going to type it in here, which apparently is a free online annotation tool. So there's that. But there are all of these other resources. And I don't know if there's any math folks out here, but there are some, Open Math is a really great resource that is being currently built out by one of the math instructors in California. So there are resources. The point of this really is, if you're thinking about, the book isn't enough, the text resources aren't enough, there's something else you need, that's when you want to start thinking about, okay, what is it that I need, and is there a way to get that, rather than what a lot of folks do is they hit this kind of wall of, nope, I need quizzing databases, therefore this won't work for me. There are those options. Good. Questions on ancillaries? Yeah.
If we go to Canvas on the college Canvas, so there's a link in which we can share. What is that? I don't see it on the.
No, we have it turned off. Yeah, so that's a really great point. One of the other places to find information or to find resources is through Canvas Commons. So this is our class website, and you can see here is Canvas Commons. In fact, there have been folks out of California that have recently created entire Canvas classes. Let me go back. So this here is a psychology class that was built by the OEI, so the Online Education Initiative in California, built an entire kind of psychology shell where there's a bunch of information that you can keep, and it tells you, look, here's where you want to add your own flavor of stuff. So it's nice and already pre-built for you. This is the sort of thing you can find on Canvas Commons. Now, Canvas Commons has all sorts of other things, so this is kind of one of those other databases where there's great stuff, and then there's these random weird things that people put up, like this one little paragraph that I really like, so I shared it with everybody. So it's a little variable in that method, in that way, but that's another place to find OER. Good. Questions? Okay. So let me tell you what we're doing for our assignment, and then for next week. If you have other questions, please feel free to ask. Let's see here, comment. There is also an OER Commons OpenStax Hub. Oh yeah, thank you. So let's go here. So Rob, yeah, there is a sign in for today. It was at the very first thing in the chat window. Let me post it again, so you can sign in there. So yeah, OER Commons, as Rachel mentioned, has some really cool features for collaboration and for creating content. And one of those is what are called hubs, which is folks can get together and kind of create a bundle of resources. And the hub was set up for ancillaries built by the community. Thank you. So yeah, this is a way for the community to add ancillaries to the textbooks. And this particular hub is for OpenStax. So if you're using one of their books, this is a really great place to find ancillaries related to that. Or even if you're not using their book, maybe you're using a different statistics book, but there are going to be good ancillaries, quizzes, PowerPoints, that sort of thing. And so, yeah, that's one of the really cool things about OER Commons is you can create these groups. And if, like if child development is starting to create resources and you want to collaborate statewide, this may be a way to do it, because you can create your own hub and kind of all work together. There may be other ways to do it, but this is a nice option.
Suzanne, can I ask a question?
Please.
When I go to the Canvas Commons, it isn't clear to me how to get to the ancillary options that you just showed, and I looked under content. Would you mind just showing that one more time?
Yeah, absolutely. So in Canvas Commons.
Oh, we go into it through the course. I can't just Google it. I see.
No, yeah, because it's it is behind, I think it's behind a login. So I think you actually have to be in Canvas to get to it. But our college has it turned off, which is why you don't see it if you're in Butte's Canvas. But the one that we're using for our course here has it, so you can get to it that way.
That's very odd. I'm looking at the one we're using for our course here, and I have courses, calendar, inbox, but no, oh, maybe I need to go to my dashboard. I think I'm in the wrong.
It's not under the inbox?
No.
It is not under
Not
the
in, really?
Yeah. Because I would love to get there somehow.
Yeah. Why would that be? I wonder if you, oh, you know what? I bet you have to be logged in as a teacher. So you may want to create a teacher account to be able to get, because Commons has content that we, don't really necessarily want students to get to.
I see. Okay.
So you have to create a teacher account.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, or if, some colleges have it turned on. I'm not gonna, I don't know. That is a decision beyond me. So just for next week, what we're doing here is, okay, so we are at how do I find open educational resources? And so remember the whole point of these assignments for those that are working on the certificate is to be useful. So I don't want these to be busy work. If it feels like busy work, stop and do something else. But the first thing you're going to do is review some repositories. So, go to OER Commons or to whichever repository you felt really connected to, and review what do you like about it? What is it missing? What would you change? And to do that, you're going to search for stuff, right? So go search for stuff for your classes, just like you're doing here, and just write a little bit about what the experience was like for you, so that when other people from history come and say which repository should I search, we can say, well, look, this one worked great. This one he didn't really find much on, and so that's kind of what we're building there, is which repositories work well for different kinds of topics. And then the other assignment for this week is a literature review, and this is for the data nerds in the audience. We often get asked things like, is OER quality, are students going to do as well? And, as educators, we want to say, well, let's find out, right? We're not just going to make assumptions. We're going to want to actually run tests and see how it works. And many people have done that. So what you're going to do is scroll to, Zohar, I see there's a question. Let me finish my comment here and then I'll answer that. So what you're going to do is pick one of these research papers and just write a little bit about what you learned. So find one that sounds interesting to you. There's many other research being done. I haven't updated this in a little bit. So if you happen to find another research article about OER, you're welcome to review that instead. Excellent. So, okay, a couple of questions here. You should confirm that ancillaries are accessible and meet other requirements for your curriculum standards. Yeah, thank you, Una. Absolutely. So not all of the ancillaries are accessible. You can't simply make that assumption. I'm hoping next week we'll be able to bring in someone that can give us a little a rubric for identifying if the ancillary we find is accessible or not. So I'm hoping, sorry, not next week, November 17th. So yes, absolutely, we can't make that assumption really about any of the resources we find unless you find it through a site like Cool4Ed that has an accessibility review. You want to do that double check on your own for sure. And how do we receive flex credit? Once you fill out the form, I actually sent the spreadsheet that the form generates to the schools, and they can see that you've registered. So ask your folks there if they can confirm that they got that spreadsheet. Otherwise, I can send it again. Good. Other questions? All right. Well, I will be here, as will Rachel, for a little bit if you have specific question about your searches. Otherwise, thank you for joining us. Thank you. And I will see you November 17th, so in a few weeks.
Thank you.
Yep. Here, we can turn this around. Everyone wave. Bye. Sorry, too much fun. What happens when I get a camera? Okay.
Because you're done. You're done for the day.
I'm done.
You
All right,
can
so
have fun.
I'll leave this up, and if anyone types questions in the chat box, we'll see it. Thanks, Una.
So I'm looking at this assignment. In the short time that I've been here, I like what I found on the video comments. So I'm not sure. So I go to Google Docs. I'm not sure how to get to Google Docs. I missed last week, so I feel like I didn't register either. Maybe. I'm not sure.
That's right, that part I didn't really explain that much. So, what you want to do is, so click on Spaces Review or whatever. And so you can see they create a page. And so what you want to do is create something like this. Doesn't have to be in Google, you can do it in OneDrive, but it does have to be somewhere online. So if you go into Google Docs, okay. So you just type it there and then make it visible to everybody. So you share and then make it visible to anyone on the phone. That's what I'm talking about. So your options are, go to your okay, for those of you that are here, please take food. I have Ziplocs. I way overestimated. I'll be back. Joe will be back. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, what folks did last time is they even waited till after the semester, and when they did all 4 of the assignments, they just emailed me and said, okay, I'm fine. It's easy, all about easy.
You have a good weekend.
get started.
I tried them the other day, so I don't know, I got one of them was spicy and one of them was not, but I don't know which one was. Yeah, we do the same thing. Because people can still like it.
And hopefully to last week.
And the other one, you're like, yeah, order, lemon,
It's not the most, super friendly to have to log into a new thing at Canvas.
yeah. I have a Canvas account, I can't remember my password, and so I have to try.
So you're gonna get it twice.
No. I'm not. I mean, I enrolled in the course, and I was able to enroll in the course, and I was able to take into it. It is the course, because it was the course, because I had an account. I just couldn't figure out whether or not password.
Yeah.
And it's all the same to me.
Yeah, that's the, I think that's what we have.
I'll try it on one password.
That always cracks me up when I forget my password. I feel like I'm trying to break into my own accounts. Which this one is just complicated.
And finally you can actually.
I think I'm probably getting pictures. No, please do. I'm not doing that. Because the rest is just me and I can't possibly do that. So, in fact, I'm gonna say you're not doing that. I just get a bunch of pictures. And okay. There's two books over there. Okay. Big lots. Because I'm still working through the vegetables from last week.
I know.
So, I'm gonna have to back out of this one now. This is way too much time. And I have enough time to do it, unfortunately. Basically, I don't have time.
What are you doing the research for? What part of this one?
Yeah, I would like very often multiple
My
course
dinner.
See
what all the stuff is.
I was in the 12 and March school, like, it's like browsing and reading stuff.
Yeah.
Normal researcher. She's the input type of researcher where everything looks interesting, so you know about it, and so you just want to go down and think about, you know, for all of that.
There's only 3 courses online.
I haven't used it in time.
I use it for my class. Actually, it's one of the main resources they can use, and students love it. Yeah. And it's accurate. I mean, it does a really great job of explaining things at the right level.
Little art pins and colors and drawings.
It's really neat. That's a great story. I don't know if you've heard this, like, I talked about how we started, it was just first cousins, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I go from there.
We're sitting here, I got an email that.
This is such a big Oh, so there's a lot of it.
Oh,
Good opportunity.
wow.
And then I was asking for more, so I can't even say no. Maybe part of me, you know, what you should do different. Yeah, other stuff. I mean, I'm probably gonna say yes, because no, I know.
Well, and I was just thinking upstairs, Suzanne. I
Oh,
don't know,
God,
I had,
you fell in love.
I had nutrition classes
Yeah.
where there was not
But,
one
you know,
picture of the book.
No, really, by somebody, like, I was like,
I had a black and white ecology. Probably the worst topic for like, no pictures. I think they're lucky.
Yeah.
Oh, good, and I'm tired for the.
They're both eating and cooking. Yeah, we just did.
So Tanner.
Having the tandem.
You're welcome, yeah.
Oh, no, these are giant sweeties.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
Yeah. And if you need help with the
No,
I can keep them food, I don't have to cook today.
it fills up quick. I've got about, I had about 12
No, no,
bushels.
yeah, like, please, I don't know how much.
And a bear got into it and took his share.
Because literally the rest is going home with just me.
Well, I mean,
No sure.
Trying to do this rest of my family, they kind
I've got 21 peach trees, I'm planting another 10. 10 apple trees.
It's addictive, isn't it?
I love it, except winter time, I gotta treat.
Are you letting yours go for size?
For the peach trees I like because I get all the crotches real well. And so I can push them out to where they don't bring me all of them.
Yeah, we've been doing all of ours using the back